4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Of Yah, He is my refuge and my fortress, protects me from the wicked's deadly ordinance. Snakes master psychology, phony people studying fakeology. Yah seed, I'm a god, it's not ego. Psalms 82 verse 6, even JC know who be me. Lion face crew be deep, soldiers for Yah, screw these streets in front like the heat go. That's how I leap, waiting on the master. In the meantime, studying for my masters, building houses, growing college, sharpen my sword, and I'm cutting up scholars, raising my sons, searching for the wife. Yah, I pray he find a virtuous one, stand for justice, relieve the oppressed. Call on Yah, deliver the fatherless, let Israel be blessed.
Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up. I'm strong and bold, I won't give up. When I fall, He came and saved me. The righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, He came and saved me.
Yo, when the poor oppress the poor, it's like the sweeping rain, leaving no food, just pain. But Yah's name I exclaim, feed my brethren wisdom. Yah willing, He will do the same. Shame and calamity on my family, trapped in captivity. Many years ago, holding the calico, never know how my light glow till I step through them two doors. Left church, cause that was just fool's gold. My eyes the color of onyx. Yah's message came to me as clear as you telephonically alerting me. He opened the scrolls and fed His word to me. Now I must give to those hope lost whose spirit is froze. The knowledge of how they conquer their foes. Enemies be hatred of self. Something dangerous like this crack is wealth. Let's flee Babylon and let Yah be our help.
Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up. I'm strong and bold, I won't give up. When I fall, He came and saved me. The righteous fall, don't let up. 'Cause every time we gon' get up. When I call, He came and saved me. Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up. I'm strong and bold, I won't give up. When I fall, He came and saved me. The righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, He came and saved me. Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up. I'm strong and bold, I won't give up. When I fall, He came and saved me. The righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, He came and saved me. Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up.
Shalom, shalom. Giving all honor, all glory, and all praises to the Holy One of Israel. It is a great blessing to be able to give praises to the Most High in the little sanctuary that He has set for His people. My name is Mowreh Obediyah YIsraEL of the House of YIsraEL, located in 1907 Vine Street. And I'm standing in for the senior Moreh here at the House of YIsraEL, Mowreh IshYAH. And this is nothing but the truth. And we give all honor, all glory, and all praises to the Holy One of Israel, whose name alone is Yahweh. Now, who is Yah? Well, Yah is the creator of the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Yahweh is the Savior and the Redeemer of not only Israel, but of the entire world. Yahweh is our lawgiver. Yahweh is our judge. and Yahweh is our King, and He alone will save us. So we give all honor and glory and praises to the Most High, whose name alone is Yahweh. And I would like to say shalom to all of our family that are listening via the internet, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, or Blog Talk. For we know that the only reason why you are tuned in is because of your fear and your love towards the Creator. And tonight, we plan on bringing another dynamic program to you in the glorification and praises and honor and glory of the Most High Yah our Elohim. So please, if you can, get your grandmothers, your grandfathers, your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your aunt, your cousins, nieces, nephews, anyone that can stand and hear with understanding, and see if they would assist you in taking the seat and hearing this. Because there are a lot of things that are taking place. And we have come yet to another season. And you have a lot of people. You have the world going throughout proclaiming something, that trying to get liberty, trying to get justice, trying to get peace, trying to get harmony, trying to be in sync, and trying to make it an overall better world. And they're saying, look, the only way that this can be accomplished, the only way that this goal can be met, is we got to go out here and we got to go to this little square-shaped ballot box with your name on it and cast a vote. Put it in this ballot box. And that'll show those in power you mean business. That'll show those that are in authority that you are serious about your future. And not only your future, but the future of your children, the future of your family, the future of your people. And this is how you show the world. This is what they proclaiming. I looked at the news this morning, and they got lines going all the way to the back early this morning. People lined up to vote early. And they say, look, you got to get out here and vote. And you see, what the world don't know, and what most of our people are in the dark of, is that we have fallen out and just don't know the ordinances of Yah. Now here in Cincinnati, Ohio, they say that the voting begins tomorrow. That's when everybody's supposed to be rushing to the ballot box. And they're expecting record numbers. And they're expecting people to be lined up in droves like they were today. And tomorrow happens to be the 6th day of this heathen man's month. Well, what is 6? The blessing of man and beast. And what are they out there essentially trying to cast their vote to get? A blessing. Because they're tired of being oppressed. They're tired of being downtrodden. They're tired of being the tail and not the head. This whole world is feeling the pressure of this oppression that's going on. And somebody got to be rose up. They got to vote for someone to cast a vote. They got to have someone go and said, I'm tired of this oppression. I'm tired of this tyranny. I'm tired of all this violence. Now, who's going to go forth? And this was all spawned off of a question that was asked last week when we did questions and answers. And someone asked the question is, what does YIsraEL government look like? And we was able to go briefly through a few scriptures, but I wanted to go more in depth about this subject matter. Because if you think that the Constitution, Mr. and Mrs. Black man and woman, or Mr. and Mrs. Negro, if you think that this Constitution was designed for us to prosper, then we are sadly mistaken. If you think that these senators, governors, presidents, and councilmen were set up to bring to relieve any of this oppression, you were sadly mistaken. And if you are under the impression that your forefathers and your foremothers died for you to vote, and this is why this is something sacred, because they died for you to have the purpose to do this. Well, I'm here to let you know that you are sadly mistaken. See, Yahweh is the creator. Yahweh is the creator of the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. And Yahweh set forth the beginning from the ending. From the beginning, he declared it all. And he set forth his ordinance throughout the world. The world is established, the earth is established, and people are established through the words of the Most High. And now what the world has done is that they've taken the ordinances and cast them to the side. They've taken the order of the Most High and cast it to the side. They have taken the straight paths and made them crooked. And the law of Yahweh has not been magnified. So now the earth is in darkness, and gross darkness is covering the people. And people are asking, man, why are we in such a stray? Why are we led in such this darkness? Why is it covering us? Why are we oppressed? And now you have people saying, well, since you say that you serve the true and living Elohim, since you say that you follow the Elohim that gave you order, well, how does it look? How does a righteous government look? Well, let me show you. Turn with me, if you will, to the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter. Now you have people going all throughout the world, and they're proclaiming, man, look, you got to vote locally, statewide. You have to vote and put politicians in the office so they can represent you. You have politicians that have come out and said, look, I'm only interested in messing with the people that mess with me. So if you don't mess with me, then don't worry about your interests being met in office. They're coming out and they're making these statements. They're coming out and making these proclamations. But what responsibility do the Most High put on the government? Is this the responsibility that he placed on several men, on the council? Is this the responsibility that he has placed on an entire nation to elect? Well, let's read and see. In the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter. And I'm going to start reading at the 6th verse. And this is a popular scripture by most of our people that are in the Christian community, because they thinking that this is speaking of a man that died for their sins. This is a man that removed their transgressions, who laid his life down at Calvary and shed his blood. Well, if that's the case, then why are you so worried about who's in office? Why are you so worried about the politics? Why are you so worried about who sits up in the White House? You're already redeemed, correct? In the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter, and the 6th verse, it reads, for unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Now, in verse 7, it reads, of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice, for henceforth ever and ever the zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this. Now, who's risen up in the aisles today that they calling Wonderful Counselor? You may be impressed by their words. You may be impressed by their speeches, but nowhere are they being called Wonderful Counselor. And they're sure not being called the Mighty Elohim. Because some of these men and women, they're not even of Elohim. They don't give praises to the Most High. They don't sanctify Yah of hosts. They don't acknowledge the true and living Elohim. They serve idols. And if they're not serving idols, they trying to be an idol to the people. So you know that they're not called the mighty Elohim. And you know that they're not called no everlasting Father, because they get 2-year terms, 4-year terms. And if the system is corrupt enough, they'll just perpetually stay in there until someone can boot them out. So it's not forever for them. And you know for a fact that they're not the Prince of Peace, because this nation is founded. This nation continues, and this nation is built on war and destruction. You could take money from anything else. You could pull financial resources from anywhere else. But when you start talking about pulling it from the military, oh my goodness, they up in arms. It doesn't matter if they got 350 ships. If you want to take 10 of those ships away, they complaining, well, you may need them 10 ships. We may have a war where 340 just won't do, and them extra 10 will. This is how they have established their government. But this is not the government that Yahweh has set forth. This is not the government that Yahweh speaks of. Why is the government on the shoulders of David? Because King David will be bearing the laws of Yahweh. He will be bearing the words of Yahweh. He will be bearing the testimonies of Yahweh. And he will be bearing the judgments of Yahweh. That's how you establish a righteous government. Not by putting in some man, or thinking that you participating in putting in some man who takes an oath to separate church from state. So it don't matter what you believe, you can't bring that into the political offices, especially when it comes to matters of controversy. If it comes time to bomb a nation, you better not talk about the scriptures say we got to seek counsel. We got to seek wise counsel. Let's go seek Yah. Let's put on ashes and sackcloth. Man, you'll be out of there before you sworn in. Because this nation doesn't stand for righteousness. And these nations who have taken hold of the ways of Babylon, they don't stand for righteousness either. So all you have is a perpetual state of wickedness. All you have is a perpetual state of evil. And this is how you know that you don't have kings in your midst. This is how you know that we haven't had holiness in our midst to rule. Because it says this in the book of Proverbs, the 20th chapter. If you turn with me there. In the book of Proverbs, the 20th chapter, I'm gonna read the 7th and the 8th verses, and it reads that the just man walketh in his integrity, and his children are blessed after him. This is what a just man will do. He has to walk in his integrity, because his integrity will be predicated on his faithfulness to the Most High. This is how we able to leave an inheritance. But look at what it says in verse 8. Now I want you to answer this honestly. Are your presidents doing this today? Are your senators doing this today? Are your executive branches doing this today? Are your legislative branches doing this today? Are your judicial branches doing this today? Who's executing this in verse 8? It says, a king that sitteth in the throne of judgment scattereth away all evil with his eyes. This is what a king do. It says he sitteth in the throne of judgment, and he scattereth away all evil with his eyes. Now who's doing that? Who's scattering away evil with just a look? Well, I could take away the shroud of any mystery. None of them are doing that. Because all of them stand for our oppression. All of them stand for murder. All of them stand for misleading justice. All of them are perverted. All of them are walking in the imaginations of their own heart. All of them are hearkening to evil counsel. All of them are hearkening to ways that are opposite of the Most High. None of them are choosing the ways of life. And that's why everything is out of order. That's why everything is chaotic. You have men and women that have been placed in these political positions, and they so corrupt. They follow ways that are so evil that now they done messed up everything. So now a new regime has to come in. And when this new regime comes in, now they got to play so-called cleanup. So now the average things, the simple things that you shouldn't even have to argue over, now you have to have a proposal. Your roads are messed up. So now you got to have a proposal if it's going to be fixed. Children getting hit, waiting for their school bus to take them to school. They getting hit left and right. Now you got to have a bill to see if a stoplight or any type of repercussions that come from doing so. All these things that's taking place, these are the simple things. The righteous would know this. You don't have to leave this up to vote on. You don't have to leave this up to have in a court of public opinion. Yahweh said we ought to do that which is lawful and right. But the reason why these things are so-called proposals, the reason why these things are bills, the reason why these things have to be passed is because the rulers that's been sitting in these positions, man, they haven't made evil scatter with just the look of an eye. They've been embracing it. Matter of fact, not only are they embracing it, they endorsed. And not only are they endorsed, and they paid by it. They paid to keep the evil going. That's why I said in the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter in the 9th verse, it says, I beheld, till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Those thrones that were cast down, those are all the government bodies. So it don't matter whether you say, well, I'm a Democrat. I stand on the side of the Most High. No, if you stand on the side of the Most High, you wouldn't call yourself a Democrat. You wouldn't call yourself a Republican. You won't be participating in any of this evil that's going on. And now they know how emotional, that we can get as a people. So now they're trying to plead. So now they put your favorite celebrities on the camera, and now they co-signing other people. You got Oprah Winfrey. They said she going door to door, knocking on people's door, trying to get people to register to vote and vote. Well, I'm thinking if we walking in the ways of how we should walk, and if we doing the things that we should be doing, is this the thing that we will be going door to door, telling people about? Is what Yah said that he will cause to be eradicated when righteousness is restored? Well, turn with me to the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. In the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, I'm going to read at the 34th verse. And it reads, well, no, I'm going to read at the 33rd verse and see what the Most High said that he would do. In Jeremiah 31 and 33, it says, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith Yah, I will put my spirit, my law in their inward parts. Now, did he say that he will put a ballot in our inward parts? We should know whether we Democrat or Republican. That's going to be in our inward parts. No, he said he going to put his law, his word in our inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know Yahweh. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yah. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. This is what it said. We wouldn't go and have to tell our people, know Yahweh. Not go vote. Not go out and cast a ballot. Not to go out and stand in line to make a man your head and fear him or fear her and think that all hope is lost because someone didn't get in office, when this government wasn't even instructed and made for us anyway. The same Constitution that says that we 3/5 of a man, they uphold. The same Constitution that mandates how you are to have your slaves, they uphold. This is the reason why we cut down in the streets and you don't see any repercussions. This is the reason why we could be going through their judicial system and get time, and someone that don't look like you can come in for the same offense and get out with probation. It's a reason, because this government and this system was never set up for us. And the reason why it was never set up for us, because when we had our own government and when we had righteousness ruling, we turned our backs on the Creator to mimic and try to act like the other nations whom Yahweh didn't give his laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments to. This is how we behave. And now you have people saying, look, man, in order to restore this order, we got to go out and vote. We got to cast this ballot. Well, man, don't you know that it's creatures that have more sense than the average black man and black woman has today? You don't believe what I'm saying? Think that this is ridiculous when I'm speaking? Well, turn with me to the book of Proverbs, the 6th chapter. We went over this Proverbs this past Shabbat, and it was so dynamic. I was like, goodness gracious. Look at the wisdom of these creatures. In the book of Proverbs, the 6th chapter, and the 5th verse, it says, deliver thyself as a roe from the hands of the hunter, and as a bird from the hands of the fowler. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. Oh my goodness. It said, man, look to the ant. Stop being sluggish. Let us stop waiting for a man to deliver us. Let us stop trying to have and put the burdens on a man, and he fights for everybody. Say, man, get those ways out of the way. These are the ways of the heathens. If you want to be simplistic and you want to learn the simple way on how you should move, man, just look to the ant. Stop being a sluggard and look to the ant. The ant constantly working. The ants constantly moving. Why? Because they have no God, they have no overseer, and they have no ruler. They just know they got work to put in. They know that they got things to store up. And there's plenty of testimonies, even in this nation, of our people being prosperous without casting a vote. Black Wall Street, we had our own hotels. We had our own stores. We had our own banks. The same thing that most of our people pass it out over now, we had those things. We wasn't even allowed to go into these communities that our people are trying to go in and vote for now. You wasn't even allowed to sit at those tables that most of our people are going to write their name down to fill out a ballot now. They wasn't casting no votes. You just have to look to the ant. And just know that and the ant is in a insubordinate position. Because it say the ant don't have no God, no overseer, no ruler. Well, Yisrael, we do. We have Yahweh. We have the true and living Elohim. Yahweh said, look, I'm going to make sure that you got a ruler because I'm your ruler. I'm going to make sure that you don't go astray because I'm your Elohim. And I raise my hand to the heaven and declare that I live forever. And I'm going to give you laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. And the nations are going to see you keeping these laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments, and they're going to be in awe. They're going to say, man, we haven't seen laws like these. We haven't seen statutes like these. Oh my goodness. Look at what the nations will say. Now, are they going to say this because we're voting? Are they going to say this because we know how to speak their vernacular properly? Or we know how to sit and cross our legs and be at the table and know how to argue like them? No, look at what the nations will be astonished at. Look at what the nations were astonished at then, and this is how they will be in the future. In Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. In Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 5th verse. Deuteronomy 4 verse 5 reads, Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yah my Elohim commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who have Elohim so nigh unto them as Yahweh our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? This is what the nations would say. They would look at this and say, oh my goodness, look at how simple these laws are. Look at how wise these people are. And you wouldn't have testimonies like a fool would come up and try to shoot up a black church. And because the doors was not open, you go to a Kroger's and you just start shooting black people. You shoot down and murder 2 elders. Walk past another gentleman that looks like, walk past a Gentile that looks like you who had the pistol. And instead of trying to disarm him or try to hold him in custody, just stood there in shock. And he said, look, he walked past them and allegedly told them, look, white don't kill other whites. And continued on about his business. And then get arrested. Go through the court system and say, well, look, we can't charge this man with a hate crime because homicide in the state of Kentucky is not covered under a hate crime. Well, when does the Most High speak about homicide? When does the Most High speak about 1st-degree murder, 2nd-degree murder, 3rd-degree murder? You see where the Most High speaks about manslaughter. Manslaughter is not murder. It's just that. It's manslaughter. That means you didn't have an intent to do it. It was on accident. But even if it was an accident, there still was a city that you had to go to. There still was a city that you had to dwell in. And you couldn't leave the walls of that city until the high priest passes away. Because if you left outside of that city and someone of that person's family saw you and they blood wax hot, well, now they can wax their vengeance upon you. And they will be totally in the clear for it. Why? Because you were instructed not to leave that city. It's called the city of refuge. Now, where is the city of refuge today? Is it in the borders of Cincinnati? Is it in the borders of America? No. Because here in this country, everybody is free. Manslaughter, murder, and that's why so much blood is being spewed out in the streets. Because there is no justice being executed. There is no judgment being executed. Why is it void of being executed? Not because you're voting, because we're not following after Yahweh. And Yahweh said that these things will happen. Yahweh said that these things will take place. Yahweh said that no man will save you. I don't care who you thought would save you. You could have thought Clinton was going to save you. She's not going to save you. He didn't save you. You could have thought Obama would save you. He didn't save you. You could think that Bush could come back and save you. He's not going to save you. You know why? Because this was ordained by the Most High. Don't believe what I'm saying? Then turn with me to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Because Yahweh gave us these laws and these statutes and these judgments that if we do them and if we keep them and we delight in our Elohim for giving us these laws, statutes, and judgments, man, we the heads, we the kings and queens of the entire earth. The whole earth will have to follow pursuit of us. The whole earth will have to bow down to us. Why? Because they know that we serve the true and living Elohim. But since we wanted to trade in the true and living Elohim and serve that which can't breathe, can't smell, can't think, can't talk, serve a bunch of, it's just all vanity. Since we wanted to go after those ways, since we didn't delight in the Most High, the Most High said, the Most High said, look, I'm going to put you in the midst of your enemies. And those that oppress you will rule over you. And no, don't worry about it, because they're not going to have no favor towards the young or the old. They'll shoot down a 10-year-old just like they would shoot down an 85-year-old and think nothing about it. Because this is the way oppressors move. And Yahweh said that he will put us in the land of our oppressors. And who will be ruling over us? Our oppressors. So there's no need to say, well, voting must work. Because why are they trying to suppress it? Because that's what the oppressor will do. Anything that they would do to oppress us, they will do. You hear people say now, man, the food's not like how it used to be. It used to be you could go to the store and get you some good fruit. And they all had seeds. Now you grab stuff and put it in your cart. You take it home. You don't see no seeds now in it. Look at it, say navel. That means it's seedless. People go to the store and they take all the seeded grapes and eat them while they walking through the store and fill the seeded grape bags with seedless grapes. Why? Because this is what oppressors do. They oppress. And they never going to get tired of oppressing because that's their commission. That's what Yahweh ordained them to do. That's why I say the scriptures say that the Most High made the wicked for the day of evil. So how could there be a day of evil if everybody's righteous? So there has to be evil. They done purpose their heart to do evil. And they done purpose their ways to do evil. And this is the people who we in the midst of today. Why? Because we purpose to do evil against the Most High. And this is the condition that we in today. In Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and the 68th verse, I'm going to start reading at the 67th verse. And it reads, in the morning thou shalt say, would Elohim it were even? And at even thou shalt say, would Elohim it were morning? For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And Yah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and for bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. You want to know why your voting don't work? You want to know why it don't matter who you put in office? You don't seem to get out of your economic plight? The state of your plight in your city? The violence doesn't cease? Why this plight on our people doesn't cease? Because Yahweh said he will bring us again into Egypt, and no man shall buy you. So even if a man wanted to, he wouldn't be in the position to. Because the words of Yah don't come back void. Now you could believe this or not. You could take this to heart or not. You could take it and say, that's a bunch of BS that you're talking. My ancestors died for the right for me to vote. They died for me to cast my vote, and I'm going to exercise my right and vote. Well, you're free to do what you choose to do. Yahweh said he set before us life and death, blessings and curses. So if that's the way you want to choose to go, then choose to go that way. The astounding thing is that some of our people, they don't let go of the Most High. They forsaken the Most High because of all this oppression. They don't see any alleviation of this oppressor. And they say, well, there can't be a creator because look at all this oppression that's on the face of this earth. But they don't believe in the creator, but yet they believe in voting. They don't believe in the creator, but yet they'll mark up their skin with tattoos. They don't believe in the Creator, and they go out and eat anything, put all type of abominations in their mouth. They don't believe in the Creator, and look at the ways that, in other words, the point that I'm proving is nobody that says that they don't believe in the Most High are moving wisely. Because the wisdom lets you know a fool says in his heart, there is no Elohim. So how could you expect to be moving wisely? How could you be counted as one of the wise when you don't even acknowledge that there's a Creator? You thought that you were just put here by chance. It was just a roll of the dice, and now you here. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. And this is why we being oppressed today, my people. Because we refuse to return back to our Elohim. And Yahweh said this. He said, look, you're going to be brought into Egypt again in ships. In other words, you're going to be oppressed. And this oppression, no man going to be able to buy you out of this oppression. And how were we treated in Egypt? We'll turn with me to the book of Exodus, the 1st chapter. Because you hear about all these wonderful things about America. Just like you hear all these wonderful things about Egypt. They'll take you by the pyramids. They'll take you and show you the walls of hieroglyphics. And they'll show you how wise that this nation was. They'll show you how intelligent this nation was. They'll show you how other countries pattern themselves after Egypt. All they do is marvel in the beauty. Oh, but they don't talk about the oppression. No, that's a rumor. Everything else can be proven. But the oppression, oh, that's a rumor. You know why they want to deny that oppression? It's because to confirm that oppression is to confirm the words of Yah. Just like what they're doing here. To confirm our oppression will be confirming the words of Yah. And the fool says there is no Elohim. So that's why you don't see it. You can see it, but you don't see it. You hear about it, but you don't hear it. Because you have eyes, but you see not, and ears, but you perceive not. In the book of Exodus, the 1st chapter. In Exodus, the 1st chapter, I'm going to start reading at the 8th verse. We're in the 8th month. The 8th month is in the order of 1. And here we are in the book of Exodus, the 1st chapter, and the 8th verse, which is in the order of 1. And look what's taking place. It says, now there arose up a new king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, fiefdom, and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Yeah, that's right. And that's what they're doing today. The more you afflict our people, the more little children you see and sprout out. Go to your local ghettos today, your neighborhoods, where they done pushed our people out. Where it's oppression there, but you see a whole bunch of children running out, running to and fro. This is how you know that we, the people, are the Most High. But to expedite, look at what this Pharaoh came and said. It says in verse 15, it says, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then ye shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded, them, but saved the men children alive. Why? Because they knew this is murder. We can't stand for this. We can't condone this. And this is what captivity is doing today. They're saying, look, you ain't got to have that baby. It's your right to choose. So you know what we're going to open up? We're going to open up an abortion clinic. And we're going to say, look, it's your right to choose. Don't let no man pressure you into having this child. Your parents pressure you into having this child. You can have an abortion, and we'll be there. Because this land have cleaved unto its wickedness. And this is not the spot that Yahweh has ordained for his people. Look at what the righteous are supposed to be doing. Look at how the righteous are supposed to be moving. Turn with me to the book of Psalms, the 37th division. Now, are you hearing politicians speak like this? No. Are you hearing politicians try to magnify Yahweh so that he'll magnify his law and make it honorable? No. Are you having politicians say, look, we need to gather ourselves together and bring the people back to Yahweh? Is this what the politicians are spreading? Absolutely not. In the book of Psalms 37, I'm going to start reading at verse 9. And it reads, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon Yahweh, they shall inherit the earth. That's right. That's why you don't hear that. Because they're evildoers. Evildoers, though, that look, man, it's only so long we're going to be able to do evil. You take the most wickedest person. They're like, man, how long is this going to keep going on? I know it's not going to be forever, so I'm going to just be as wicked as I possibly can until the lights is out. The evildoers know that they're going to be cut off. It says, but those that wait upon Yah shall inherit the earth. It says, for yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. This is the reward that Yahweh gives to those that stay faithful to him, that cleave unto him, that walk in his ways, that fear him, and seek him, and him only. Seek his words, seek his testimonies, statutes, and judgments. This the meek is going to inherit the earth. And now you got a bunch of men that'll rise up and they'll say there is no creator. Man, this whole earth came together because of a big bang. You came together because of a big bang. Well, the bang is on them. The terror is on them. The oppression is on them. Because the righteous know that the meek will inherit the earth. The wicked won't, but the righteous know that they will inherit the earth. And when we refuse to go in the ways of Yah, we fall victim of this oppression. Turn with me to the book of Jeremiah, the 44th chapter. In the book of Jeremiah, the 44th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 16th verse. And we're going to start to see why our ways and our purposes are being disappointed. Going to start seeing why a lot of our ways are not prospering. Why the works of our hands are not prospering. Because Yahweh doesn't stand for disobedience. Yahweh doesn't stand for us turning our backs on him and going out of the ways of him. There's consequences for everything that we do. And look at the mentality of our people. In the book of Jeremiah, the 44th chapter, starting at the 16th verse, it reads, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of Yahweh, we will not hearken unto thee. And that's what they saying today. Look, man, I don't care what you talking about. That Yah stuff, that scripture stuff. I'm going out to vote. Yah ain't telling me not to vote. Did Yahweh tell you to vote? Well, he didn't tell me not to vote. But even if he did, I'm still not going to hearken. Because this is the rebelliousness of our people. This is how we've been to the Creator. And we say, look, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Yehuda and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine. This is what our people are, the condition we're in today. You see serving these idols haven't brought you any prosperity. Matter of fact, it's cutting you down. You see that your days are not being lengthened, they're being shortened. You see that you're not getting blessed, you see you being cursed. But we still want to do it. We still want to go in this way. We still want to stay in this groove, because we hoping that one day the light is going to come on. And all this is not going to be for naught. Well, it is for naught. Because if it's not of Yah, that's exactly what it is. It's vain. It's of nothing. It's of absolutely no purpose. In verse 19 it reads, and when we burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her, and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men? Then Jeremiah said unto all the people, to the men, and to the women, and to all the people which had given him that answering, saying, the incense that ye burn in the cities of Yehuda, and in the streets of Jerusalem, ye and your fathers, your kings and your princes, and the people of the land, did not Yahweh remember them, and came it not into his mind? Yes, Yahweh said that if we will humble ourselves and confess our sins to the Most High, then he will remember the covenant that he made with our forefathers. But we don't do that. We haven't done that. And then it says, so that Yahweh could no longer bear, and because of the evil of your doings, and because of the abominations which ye have committed, therefore is your land a desolation, and an astonishment, and a curse without an inhabitant, as at this day, because ye have burned incense, and because ye have sinned against Yah, and have not obeyed the voice of Yahweh, nor walked in his law, nor in his statutes, nor in his testimonies. Therefore this evil is happened unto you as at this day. It don't matter how much you vote. It don't matter how many lines you stand in. You can show your dedication to man, but you can't show your dedication to Yah. You can put forth your efforts to man, but you can't put forth your efforts to Yahweh, the true and living Elohim. No wonder why Yah said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is but flesh. Yahweh not going to keep his spirit in us, and we out here acting foolish. This is because Yahweh going to have to show the world he's the true and living Elohim. And Christ has redeemed you of nothing. The Quran has redeemed you of nothing. The coming forth for the book of day and night have retrieved us of nothing. All that's brought to us is affliction and anguish and rejection from the Most High. Yahweh said this in the book of Leviticus, the 26th chapter. In the book of Leviticus, the 26th chapter. I'm going to start reading at the 38th verse. Leviticus 26 and 38, it reads, and ye shall perish amongst the heathens, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemies' land. And also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they've trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. If then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and then they accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Yaakov, and also my covenant with Yitzchak, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. Yahweh said, look, we got to humble ourselves. Why is this important? Why is this relevant? What's the whole message that you delivering, Brother Obediyah? It's not making sense. What does this have to do with government? Well, what do you think the government resting upon King David's shoulders, what is this responsibility doing? And what's it for? For us to return back to Yahweh. To forsake the ways of the heathens, of the ways that we done learned, and return back to the Creator. To seek Yahweh and to humble ourselves. But the time to confess our iniquities, unfortunately, we just come into a time where we just don't recognize that we've done anything wrong. It's everyone else's fault. Man, it's this white man's fault, man. He came and kidnapped our people. How did he come and kidnap our people? Yeah, man, I know that I'm a Israelite, but we got to look after the customs of Edom because they in the land. How were they in the land? You know why they're in the land? Because this is the judgments of Yahweh. And just like Yahweh said, we going to return. Yahweh said that the land going to spew these nations out that's not inhabited. That's not the original inhabitant. Yahweh said we got to return. And unfortunately, the only way that we're going to return is through troubles. And these troubles are something that's not going to be light at all. It's going to be agony. It's going to be darkness. It's going to be a perpetual state of not being in a state of comfort, not a state of rest. And as my brother Mowreh IshYAH went over this week, that's what salvation falls under. An order of 7. Rest. And we don't have no rest. That's why I said, look, man, in the end, there should be no peace. Until this man come back and reestablish his order. Establish the word of Yahweh to the world. King David has the responsibility to restoring the Levites, purging them out, gathering Yahweh's people. This is what the king will do. These senators are not doing that. They making money off of being divisive. They're prospering in being divisive. Their all in all prosperity is in divide and conquer. That's what they do. And that's not who Yahweh set in the midst of us to rule over us righteously. Yahweh didn't say anything about a 4-year term, a 2-year term. This is how Yahweh rules. Turn with me to the book of Psalms 89. You want to see how a government looks. And we're going to see if Obama is in this government. We're going to see if Trump is in this government. We're going to see if Clintons are in this government. And what role they play. In the book of Psalms, the 89th division. I'm going to begin reading at the 89th verse. Not 89th verse. Psalms 89, I'm going to read at the 19th verse. Psalms 89 and verse 19, it reads, Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One, and saidest, I have laid help upon one that is mighty. I have exalted one chosen out of the people. I have found David my servant, with my holy oil have I anointed him, with whom my hand shall be established, and my arm also shall strengthen him. The enemy shall not exact upon him, nor the sons of wickedness afflict him. And I will beat down his foes from before his face, and plague them that hate him. But my faithfulness and my mercy shall be with him, and in my name shall his horn be exalted. And I will set his hand also in the sea, and his right hand in the rivers. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my Elohim, and the rock of my salvation. And I will make him my firstborn higher than the kings of the earth. And my mercy will I keep for him forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with him. His seed also will I make to endure forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. This is what happens when Yahweh's government is established. You don't have 4-year, 2-year, 10-year, 20-year terms. This is something that's forever. You don't have 10, 12 senators, 4, 5 presidents. You have one. Because that's Yahweh is one. So why would he choose 17, 18, 19, 20 people to do the job that one can do? And that's deliver his word, execute his judgments. It's going to be from one end of the river to the other. He's going to have worldwide dominion. And this is what happens when you're in the government of Yahweh. You don't just rule just an individual state. No, you run the nation. You run the entire world. Yisrael, we just have to see what stock we come from. Turn with me to the book of 1 Kings, the 10th chapter. In the book of 1 Kings, the 10th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 21st verse. And we reading about King Solomon, who was King David's son. And Yahweh made a covenant with King Solomon and said, look, if you run your throne like your father did, man, I'll establish you forever. But he didn't. His heart wasn't strong like his father's. His heart wasn't with the Most High like his father's. So much that King David became the standard to all the kings. And that's how the standard, you better read upon King David and get all the nonsense that people can easily point out. I don't follow after King David. He was a murderer. He committed adultery. Yahweh said the only sin that he charged David with was with the matter of Uriah the Hittite. Now, how many sins are he charging you and I with? But in the book of 1 Kings, the 10th chapter, 21st verse, it says, in all kings, Solomon drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. 1 in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold, silver, ivory, and apparel, and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. And all the earth sought Solomon to hear his wisdom, which Elohim had put in his heart. See, what Yahweh has set forth is bigger than just Cincinnati, bigger than New York, bigger than California, bigger than Jamaica, bigger than England, bigger than Ireland. No, your dominion goes worldwide. You can take the laws of Yahweh and rule worldwide. They so perverse today. They got so many mandates. It's things that they got to separate by state. Well, yeah, that's in effect in the state of Ohio, but you go here, that's not in effect anymore. You have to come under a whole other set of rules. Well, Yahweh is one. And you can take his laws, statutes, and judgments anywhere, and you can rule, you can govern, be in harmony and peace with any nation and rule over any nation. Why? Because you're going to give them balance. You're going to give them justice. You're going to give them judgment of Yahweh. You're going to give them government. All this nonsense that we've been taught is the reason why we in this plight. Say, man, we in a democracy. So that means if I don't like how you ruling, I should be able to vote and say I don't like how you ruling. Well, who are you? Who made you the righteous and moral standard to rise up against anyone? Did Yahweh send you forth? Did Yahweh ordain you to speak these words? Did Yahweh come to you in a vision and told you to bring it to this individual? Bring it to the kingdomship? And the answer is no. Absolutely not. And this is why we are in the plight that we are in today. Because when we forsook Yah, we forsook our government. So why are you seeking it? People say, I don't believe in the Most High. Well, why are you voting? Because if you believe in government, you have to believe that there's a creator. Because you won't see any regime reigning and stay in succession for long periods of time that don't serve the Most High. It's just a time and season. It's only a matter of time before it crumbles and a stronger nation rises up. But what nation rises up against Yah's people and the government that he set up and the government that the people are ruling in, that they're living in? Who rises up and be stronger than the nation of Israel? None. But it's only when we forsake Yah, we forsake his laws, his statutes, his judgments, his commandments. Well, then we forsake law. And we forsake the government. The same government that we're trying to get established today. You want your own banks in righteousness? You want your own stores in righteousness? You want to break bread with your brothers and sisters in righteousness? When they return back to Yah. And let us stop being stiff-necked and hard-hearted. Yahweh done gave us a government. Yahweh done gave us the whole earth to rule over in his way. And all we just thinking is just a little piece. We still talking about 40 acres and a mule. When Yahweh said, look, you be meat, you inherit the earth. This is the conditions that happens when we start following and patterning ourselves after the heathens. Turn with me to the book of Lamentations. The 2nd chapter. Because when we forsake Yahweh, when we forsake the Most High's ways, all we have chosen unto ourselves is a bunch of darkness and destruction. This is all that we have chosen unto ourselves. Just like what Yah said. He set before us life and death, blessings and curses. He set before us light and darkness. So if you don't want to rule and be ruled over in the light of Yah, well then you're going to be ruled in the darkness of your oppressors. In Lamentations 2, verse 14, it reads, thy prophets, they have seen vain and foolish things for thee, and they have not discovered thine iniquity, to turn away thy captivity, but have seen for thee false burdens and causes of a banishment. And all that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughters of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Man, all thy enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash at the teeth, and they say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we look for. We have found and we have seen it. Yes. And it says, Yahweh have done that which he have devised, and have fulfilled his word that he have commanded in the day of old. And he have thrown down and have not pitied, and he have caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee. He have set up the horn of thine adversaries. And this is what we in today. The horn of our adversaries are ruling over us. Why? Because we hearken to the words of these false prophets, telling you that's a good man. You need to go vote for him. You need to take on Christ in the ballot box. Take on Uncle Al in the ballot box. Listen to these false prophets. That's all they doing is leading us into damnation. That's all that they're leading us into is darkness. That's why we're not getting no prosperity. That's why we don't see the government working for us, because this is not our government. This was not established for us, and this is not for us. And you'll have people say, well, we was here already. Well, how did they take it from you? We so big and so bad and so bold. And man, I'm God. I'm God. Don't you know that God is in you and you waiting on you? Well, how did they come and take a whole land from you? How did you end up becoming the tail and they ended up being the head? How is it you don't even know lightness from darkness? How is it that you don't even know up and down, east or west? How is it we done placed our hands in many things, but we don't see prosperity coming out of none of it? How are these things taking place? Well, they're taking place because these things were done by the hands and the will of the Most High. Turn with me to the book of Daniel, the 6th chapter. See, when you stand up for Yahweh in righteousness, and when we stand in the ways of Yah, our salvation is not going to look like what people think it's going to look like. Our deliverance is not going to look like how people expect it to look, because the world don't know Yah. Most of our people that's in gross darkness, they don't know Yah. So you don't even know how prosperity looks. You don't even know what a true government looks like. When you in the true government, you don't have your oppressors judging you. You judging your oppressors. You don't let your oppressors lock up. You take counsel and you lock up. And if the judgment is for them to die, then they're dead. When you in the government of Yahweh, you keeping the Shabbat. You keeping the laws. You paying your tithes. Now people say, look, man, we can't pay tithes or keep the Sabbath. That's what I'm saying. We can't do that. No, what you're saying is that we can't return back to Yah, like what Yahweh commanded us to do. He said, return unto me, and I will return unto you. But we say, when shall we return? And Yahweh said, will a man rob Elohim? Yea, ye have robbed me. You, even this whole nation, have robbed me in tithes and offerings. So anybody that say that we can't pay tithes, we can't pay offerings, we can't keep the Shabbat, we can't keep the laws, you just saying we can't return to Yah. And this is the reason why we in the plight that we are in today. Because when you stand for Yah, and when you were serving the Yah, those that are in power bend to the will of Elohim that you serve. And they make decrees based off of your Elohim. As it states in the book of Daniel, the 6th chapter. I'm going to begin reading at the 25th verse. It reads, Then King Darius wrote unto all the people, nations, and languages that dwelt in all the earth, and said, Peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men shall tremble and fear before the Elohim of Daniel. For he is the living Elohim, and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even until the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who have delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus of the Persian. Yes, even your enemies, they'll see, man, this what you walking in, this Elohim you serve, or I can see this dominion has no end. This government has no end. This power has no end. Because you serve the power of power. You serve the creator of wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. You serve the true and living Elohim. People are looking for power in government. People are looking for power in legislation and don't even know you forsaking your power every day. What is casting your vote and you going to be disobedient to the Most High? What's the purpose of trying to participate in politics and you not even hearkening to the words of the Most High? And Yahweh not giving us things that's unobtainable. He said, look, just return unto me. Just humble yourselves. You too arrogant. You too haughty. You doing the things I hate. You coming up there with a proud look. You got your chin up, your head up high. You even got a sticker. I voted today. Yep, I voted. Change gonna come. And now 4 years later, why no change coming? And the thing about it is, change is coming. But the changes on how it's coming, oh my goodness, it's going to be something that is going to be like the earth has never seen. It's going to be an experience that we as a people have never experienced. And I'm not talking about this is a feeling of euphoria. We got great troubles that's rapidly approaching us. Because when we refuse to return unto the Most High, Yahweh still said He's going to redeem us. But it's how He's going to redeem us. This is why we have to go through these troubles. This is why we have to go through this plight. This is why we have to go through this suffering. This is why you see that there's no government that's set up that's prosperous for you, because besides Elohim, there is none else. There is no power. There is none that will save you. So the best thing is for us to return to the Most High. Because this is how the world is going to have to bow. Every knee will bow and every tongue shall confess. This is how the world is going to receive their blessings. By following the Most High. By coming to hearing the words of the Most High. Coming to hear the laws of the Most High. Turn with me to the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter. In Zechariah 14 and verse 16 it reads, And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, even unto them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith Yah will smite the heathens that come up not to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. What's the Feast of Tabernacles? This is the day we celebrated our liberation. And the whole world is going to have to come to Jerusalem to hear the laws of Yah being taught on the day of our liberation. And this voting has absolutely nothing to do with the liberation of our people. It shows how enslaved we are as a people. It shows how oppressed we are as a people. Because if it brought any relief to the oppression, then why do they have to make amendments for you to even vote? If it was something so precious for you to do, then why do they have to renew the amendments that they made for you to vote? And since you think it's so precious that someone died for you to vote, or think that someone died for you to vote, well, little do you know, people died and stood in the gap for you to serve the true and living Elohim. Turn with me to the book of Isaiah, 58th chapter. Excuse me, that was Isaiah, the 53rd chapter. Isaiah, the 53rd chapter. I'm going to begin reading at the very first verse. It says, who have believed our report, and to whom the arm of Yah is revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of the dry ground. He have no form nor comeliness, and what we shall see him, when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire of him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid it, as were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. But surely he hath borne our grief, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. It says, all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Yahweh have laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before the shearers is dumb. So he openeth not his mouth. And he was taken from the prison and from judgment. And who shall declare his generation? For he was cut out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. And this is the righteous that stood in the gap. So we can be cutting up and saying that they died for us to go vote, to go cast the ballot, to put your oppressor over you. No, the righteous stand in the gap to save you from your oppressor, to bring you out of the way of your oppressor, and to have you return back to Yahweh. Because if the earth want to be spared, and if the people in the earth want to be spared, that's the only thing that's going to be our salvation, is the words of Yahweh. Turn with me to the book of Malachi, the 4th chapter. in the book of Malachi, the 4th chapter. I'm going to begin reading at the 4th verse. And it reads, Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in the Horeb, for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yah. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. He's coming to restore law. The king that Yahweh have anointed with his holy oil is coming to restore law. Because Yahweh is all about order. He established this in order. He created this earth to be inhabited in order. This is why the meek will inherit the earth, because only the meek is concerned with keeping the ordinances of the true and living Elohim. And we're not going to get this by rebelling against the Most High. We're not going to get this. We're not going to receive this by turning our backs from the Most High. And we're not going to receive this by outright turning our backs from the Most High. Turn with me, if you will, to the book. I believe that's in Give me just one moment. Hold on. It's in the book, turn with me, if you will, to the book of 1 Samuel, the 15th chapter. In the book of 1 Samuel, the 15th chapter, I'm going to begin reading in the 22nd verse. And it reads, And Samuel said, Have Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yah? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as the iniquity and idolatry. But thou hast rejected the word of Yah, he have also rejected thee from being kings. And that's why we haven't had a righteous president. That's why we haven't had a humbled president. That's why they keep getting worse and worse, prouder and prouder, more arrogant and more arrogant, and more evil, because they turn their backs from the Most High, so y'all don't rejected them. And y'all rejected them because Yahweh knows what he's doing. Mr. and Mrs. Black man out there and black woman, listen to the words of the true and living Elohim. You can stand, you can march, you can cry, you can wait till lines that go for miles and cast your votes. You're not in charge of what's taking place. I'm not in charge of what's taking place.
60 seconds.
Who's in charge of what's taking place? It's in the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter. In the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter, and the 17th verse, it reads, This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of man, and giveth it to whomsoever he will.
10 seconds.
And he sets up over it the bases of men. My people, when are we going to wake up and realize your salvation is not in your hands? It's not in my hands. It's not for us to follow after the imagination of our own heart, or go after the imaginations of our own words, or follow after a man. For if we truly want salvation, if we truly want peace, if we truly want justice, if we truly want judgment, if we truly want a righteous government, then put down those ballots and lower yourself to the Most High and start walking in the ways of the true and living Elohim. Because whether you accept this or not, whether I accept this or not, the judgment has gone forth, and the fierce anger of Yahweh is rapidly approaching. And there's not a way that you're going to be able to vote your way out of this, what Yahweh has planned for the earth. Because Yahweh is going to bring peace back to earth. Yahweh is going to bring a righteous king back to earth. And the government is going to rest on his shoulders. And he's going to bear the vessels, the words, and the name of Yahweh, the true and living Elohim. So until tomorrow, Yahweh loves you, and so do we at the house of Yisrael. Shalom.
To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trust in you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. But shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down and patient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth, and he'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by a seed. The secret of Yah's will who fears Elohim, of who believes everything. And to every word spoken, you can't take heed unless you hear somebody curse. You know you did the same thing. That's why I'm begging Yah for mercy and His love and kindness, cause I know that I ain't worthy. The seven seas, captivity is taking hold upon me. Put frighten me and now we flee from fallen leaves. The clouded grief from all the blood our people seen. And now we cry, where is the word from Elohim? And so we feel that we are His wives to be submissive, but we dismiss it. It is of this reason we have fallen victim to the lies that your root will prey and pursue. Rebellious of the Son, forgotten that He is one. Broken the holy ordinance, rejecting the reproof. Then acknowledge what we do. Now we return.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.